Well, hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Ascension Playground. This is your friend Ursie. Today, I wanted to have us all look up into the heavens and find the constellation Orion. This is the one that has the three belt stars that are connected to the pyramids in Giza in Egypt. So, I just thought I'd share with you today about the Orion Nebula. I'm telling you, I never thought that I would have gotten so excited when you look up into the heavens and start learning about the stories of the stars. So I created a little slide presentation for you. Let me see if I can find it on the Orion Nebula. Some have called it in the past the Great Orion Nebula. So welcome. Here's my new little logo for how to help work with navigating within our galactic consciousness. And who better to guide me than the 64-point Unity Star grid with its rainbow colors. Somehow I just love this sacred geometry. It just keeps feeding me the more I look at it. And as I may have shared before with you, it's the male equivalent of the female flower of life geometry. This one with the hard angles of the masculine, when we send love and energy through this shape, through this frequency with our pure-hearted intention, all kinds of amazing things can start manifesting. So here we go on the Ascension Playground. Let's talk about this amazing Orion Nebula. Now, the nebula, I've zoomed in to show this image, and many of you may have seen this image before. It never ceases to amaze me. I mean, as a painter, I just see such fluid forms and shapes. It's what's called a diffuse nebula. There's 5 different nebulae, and I think it's the words nebula or nebulae, but there's 5 different types of nebula. How's that? And this one is called diffuse. And that whole word diffuse just means, think Neptunian, not a real shape around it. It's very cloudy, smudgy, amorphic. So that is a picture of the Orion Nebula. So when we look at the old star constellation chart and we look up to the heavens and we wonder, which star is that? We can first look at learning how to identify the constellation and then its various fixed stars. So I've put a little yellow skull around Orion. Now I'm going to pause here for a minute because Orion, the great hunter, what I've read in ancient Egypt, and there's different stories, but this was the place where the pharaohs, as the great kings, were hoping to return home on their star boat, right? So this whole idea of rebirth, reincarnation, returning back to the stars of Orion as a king, pharaohs. So there you now see where it is in the heavens. And now I've given you 2 side-by-side images here. One right next to me are the star points. These are the beautiful fixed stars of Orion, including Betelgeuse, Mesa, Bellatrix, the 3 belt stars on his beautiful belt, Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka. And then the 2 on the bottom, Safe and Regal. Well, wouldn't you know it? If you look at the 3 bottom stars of Orion, you're going to see I put a little round red circle because the triangle that's formed with one of the belt stars and the 2 bottom stars of Orion, that's the location of the Orion Nebula. All right, so the other picture next to the stars is Urania's mirror image of, this is a metaphoric picture of the great hunter. He's got his club held up with one hand. On the other hand, he's holding the Nemean lion, which he vanquished and conquered. stars at the foot or the thigh, the belt stars. But if you look really carefully at Orion, he's got a red skirt on. And so within the red skirt, attached to the three belt stars is a sword. So I'm just going to leave it there. But when we want to find the nebula, we're looking at where the position of his sword is, that masculine projectile. It's between these three stars. Again, Alnitak, Safe, and Rigel. All right, now we're going to look at the night sky. Okay. And here now we're seeing the same stars without the imagery around it. And the yellow circle I placed is where the Orion Nebula is located, between his legs, below the belt. It's below the belt for the nebula. And look at this picture above me. Oh my gosh, it just dances with color and shape. I sense this like angelic wings of light. There's a beautiful radiance of color and multicolors happening all within the nebula. The scientific term is M42 or Messier 42 for the Orion Nebula. So beautiful. I mean, come on, look at that. How much more beautiful does it get? Now, when we start looking at the story of the stars with the Orion Nebula, we see its great connection to the Mayan civilization. So the Mayans would look up at a beautiful star cluster, which is really an interstellar cloud of gas and plasma and dust. And it's all collapsing onto itself, forming and birthing baby stars. Older stars are dying off, but it's this whole death and rebirth within the nebula. It makes me a little bit like, oh, look, it's a nursery. The Orion Nebula is a stellar nursery. Hello, little babies. In fact, as the babies are growing, their light is creating this effervescent color. So when you see the color, just think, oh, the growth of the stars. As a star dies, it typically moves towards, the white dwarf star or other various shapes, but it's the color is exploding with the heat. So when a star dies, it gets cold and doesn't have the color. So anyway, back to those Mayans. I put a little picture here for you because just look at the Mayans' headdress. Doesn't it kind of relate to this beautiful diffuse nebula of Orion? It looks like the headdress in the heavens. They've got bird feathers. They celebrate. I think he has a conch shell to call in the ancestors. The Mayans called the nebula the cosmic fire of creation. Remember, below the belt of Orion is that cosmic fire of creation. Interesting, isn't it? Well, here's a little bit more. I went and I pulled some images of, some of the ancient lands. Here we've got ceremony. So when people started looking at the homes of the Mayan, I shouldn't say people, archaeologists, okay, they noticed a triadic pattern in the kitchens. And so this idea that those three stars that are holding space for the cosmic fire of creation, Rigel, Alnitak, and Safe, holding that triadic shape so that the Orion Nebula, the fire, could be contained, basically, and identified. So it's like the Mayans brought this triadic shape into their hearth, into their kitchens. And so I think the triadic pattern calls out Ox, Te, and Tun. Interesting, right? How when we go back in time to learn the ancient myths and the star stories, it helps us navigate today to see where we are and then where we want to go for the future. You just can't help but look more multidimensionally when you start looking into the heavens. Okay, what do I have for you next? Look at this violet colored, lavender colored shape of the Orion Nebula. Now, sure, artists will put various filters, photographers, but this idea of stars being born, growing, and then evolving and dying, and then collapsing again to be reborn. It's happening all within this miasma of space. Now, interesting that this nebula is only 1,500 light years away from Earth, which is meaning that it's the closest star forming region to our planet. It's kind of interesting that the Mayan were able to see that and have a connection with this cosmic creator fire. Now, being in Julia Balaz's Quantum Soul Guidance Practitioners course, she gives us some fun dates to look at. Our sun in the northern hemisphere conjoins this nebula on June 16th. So if you want to attune to this beautiful nebula, you can anytime during the year, but there's a stronger solar alignment. It's like tracking the moon and knowing your moon cycles. Now we're tracking the nebula and finding out when best to work with this cosmic fire. Say you're a creator and you just aren't feeling like you get to your work, you've got blocks. Well, wouldn't it be nice to engage with the Orion Star Nebula just to get your creative fires and juices going? So June 16th, Northern Hemisphere daytime. December 16th, like 6 months later, the nebula will be opposite the sun. And so then we in the Northern Hemisphere can meditate typically at night. But I'm only giving that as an FYI. Again, anytime, especially if you have a soul connection to the Orion Nebula. This is star family. This is like birthing. In fact, speaking of the reports that come out from Julia Balaz's calculator at galacticastrochart.com, here's a chart that has the midheaven at Gemini, 22 degrees, 25 minutes. Yes, the midheaven in astrology is the top light of your astrological wheel. It's what you're beaming out into the public domain. I'm going to say public and galactic domain. So Orion is conjunct the midheaven with Gemini, the twins. Let's see. So there's a conjunction and support coming from Bellatrix in Orion, Mintaka, Alnilam, and Mesa. But look, I put in yellow. The Orion Nebula is only 2 degrees, 3 minutes in conjunction. So this tells me that the soul connection here offers an opportunity to have the Orion cosmic fire of creation help support the light of this chart. It's like, when you're ready, it's there. There's fire. And it doesn't matter if you have low fire in your astrological natal chart or not. There is access now through the galactic star connections. So that's a lot. Since I'm on this line of the midheaven, there's also a conjunction to the constellation Auriga. So the fixed star Capella is available and ready to help support. This is merged conjunction energy with Orion and Auriga. And then a beautiful trine from Virgo with the fixed star Spica. Trines are inherent gifts. So the gift of the goddess, something else to give through the top of the astrological wheel, projecting and emanating out into the public domain, galactic domain. Then lastly, it looks like from the constellation Boots, which is very nearby, Virgo, there's a trine to Arcturus. Oh, don't we just love that Arcturian light? These are star families that are very close to us, but in particular, this soul chart. So a natural gift from Arcturus. This is how we start walking and talking and trying to learn how to put the parts together for how to inform and navigate within the galactic awareness. These charts are just so incredibly helpful. But again, let me reiterate and summarize the midheaven at Gemini 22 there's merged potential here. The conjunction to the Orion Nebula can act like this crowning light of potential, cosmic fire and creation. But here's the interesting part. It's all by invitation. It's not enough to have a soul connection. There's this, there's this knowingness that engagement with the galactic has to be by invitation only. It's the same that we've learned about the angels. Everyone's ready to help and support, but we have to, as a human divine being, invite them in. When you're ready, go look at your natal soul connections through the galacticaastrochart.com. Find out who your star families are, which constellations and fixed stars are available to help you. And if you have the Orion Nebula, think holding the whole beautiful journey of life, death, rebirth, new life, nursery, potentials. And it's not the physical so much as the metaphoric energy for bringing your creations through. What now do you want to bring out into the world to support the greater good? And that's what the 10th house is also, carrying that transpersonal energy for the greater good. It's not for my personal gain or my personal ego. It's not for my relationships, my interpersonal relationships to stay within small groups. But when we start about those transpersonal houses like our ascendant, I'm sorry, like our midheaven, this is for out in the world, the gifts. So I wanted to end by showing you two more images. But look at this. Doesn't this look like an angelic creature, a being, a galactic being? It's the Great Mother. And remember where you can find the Orion Nebula. Look for the three belt stars of Orion. Think of him holding a sword, points below his legs, and you'll find this diffuse, beautiful nebula when you look to the heavens. Stop sharing. I hope you can feel the excitement and joy I have about talking about the stars, stellar nurseries, potentials, that it all comes down to energy, vibration, and spiritual engagement. So, do you want to play? Thanks for joining me on the Ascension Playground, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.